to make a statement.
Okay, thank you. Distinguished Dr. Ning, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my great honor to be the co-chair of this workshop. On behalf of China Association for Science and Technology, short forecast, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the organizing committee of IGF and the Brazilian government for offering us this opportunity of holding this workshop with Ghana. And I also would like to extend my special thanks to our partner, Ghana, for your support and cooperation, which makes this workshop happen. Especially, I appreciate the presence of all participants in this room. Thank you for coming, and I hope you can make more friends and have a fruitful and pleasant discussion in this workshop. CAST is the largest non-governmental organization of scientists and engineers in China. It has 204 national-level societies and many local branches in provinces, cities, universities, and companies within China. It serves as the bridge that links Chinese government to the science communities in China. There are 600 million internet users in China. Chinese government is now launching Internet Plus Action Plan, such as Internet Plus Education, Internet Plus Healthcare. CAST is now working on Science Communication China project, which is also an Internet Plus Science Popularization project. We believe that we will benefit millions of Chinese nationals. Meanwhile, CAST has been the support of the IGF for 10 years by organized workshops and exhibitions. The topic of this year is Internet Governance and Open Government Data Initiatives. We feel happy to co-organize the workshop with Ghana. Professor Tao from Beijing University of Post and Telecommunications will give us a presentation later. And I believe this workshop will not only provide a wide platform to exchange views for scholars, officials, both from China and Ghana, but also offer all the participants an opportunity to exchange these views and share their experience of internet governance. Finally, I wish the workshop success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Wu. I think the next presentation scheduled is for Mr. Eric Akumia. Is he online? This is supposed to be a remote presentation. Okay, while we wait for him to be online, it is pleasure for me to introduce Professor Tao Xiaofing from Beijing University of Post and Telecommunications to give us a presentation on the cases of open course and the case of China's universities. So, Professor Tao, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. But where is my presentation? Oh, yeah. No, it's not mine. Okay.
Okay, let me make the following adjustment. Can Eric make his presentation now, because that's what is on the slides. So Eric, can we hear you? Mr. Eric Akumia. Is the remote presenter ready? Okay, could they change the slides for me so that Professor Tao can move on so we don't hold the discussion? So please, could we just change the slides?
Oh, please. In China. Oh, yes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Tao from BOPT, also from CAST, China Association for Science and Technology. I'm a member of Consultative Committee on UN Information Technology, CCIT. In today's workshop, I will spend a little time about talking about some cases of open courses from China universities, because I'm from universities. I'm from education sector. I'm quite familiar with this area. Here is the outline of my today's presentation. First, I will briefly introduce the background of open courses, how open courses are developed worldwide, and why we Chinese want to build our own open courses. In the second part, I will introduce the open courses evolution in China. The last part is about open courses characteristics in China, i.e., what do open courses look like in China. Okay. This concept of open courses originated in MIT in the 1999. By that time, the MIT faculty wanted use internet to achieve MIT mission to advance knowledge and educate students. In the year 2000, the proposed MIT open courses were OCW, which started the story of open courses. In the year 2005, open courses were consortia. OCWC was established. It is a worldwide community with hundreds of higher education institutions which are committed to advance OCW around the world. From then on, more and more countries are paying attention to this. In the year 2012, statistics shows that about 14,000 courses from more than 200 universities all over the world are publicly available on the internet. If OCW is a pretty mature open courses platform, then why China is still developing its own open courses? I think at least three reasons. The first one is language difference. As you may know, English is not commonly used in China. However, most open courses are taught in English, which brings a language barrier for Chinese students. The second one is cultural difference. China is a country with 5,000 years civilization, and therefore we want open courses that are based on Chinese culture. The second one is technical problems. The internet infrastructure in China is still in its earlier stage with very limited internet speed. It is more appropriate to build a local open courses platform that can serve Chinese students with online video that usually demand higher bandwidth and low latency. let's talk about the OC's evolution in China. Okay, here are some facts on open courses evolution in China. In the year 2003, the Chinese Ministry of Education launched high-quality curriculums construction project, which aimed at improving the education quality in Chinese universities. By the end of the year 2010, more than 3,700 national high-quality courses were produced, covering 31 provinces, hundreds of colleges. In the year 2011, the Chinese Ministry of Education officially launched the College Video Open Courses CVOC project. The target user are the whole society, which different from the previously high-quality curriculum constructions HCC project. Network portals are also used for knowledge sharing. In the year 2011, 39 top universities in China have submitted 213 video OC in total, but only 103 are approved. The figure shows on the right some websites established by CCTV, an official organization in China. In the year 2012, the Open University of China was established officially, which based on previous China Central Radio and TV University with over 3 million registered students. The Chinese open courses are expanding its influence across the country. Next, we will summarize the open courses characteristics in China. There are three key questions have to be addressed before an OC was constructed. The first one is how to collect all necessary resources for a course. Second one is how to deliver the course to the public who don't necessarily have to stay in school. And three is who is going to use the open courses and how the students and teachers interact. For the first questions, currently every open courses is sponsored by Chinese government. Moreover, volunteers who specialized in language translation will help translate open courses that are in foreign language to Chinese. Teachers teaching an open courses will get more feedback from the online students. For the second question, let us take Open University of China, for example. There are several ways to deliver courses, materials, and information to students. The Open Courses, the Open University of China established a digital laboratory with abundant reading materials, developed apps on mobile terminals. It will also collaborate with UK Open Universities, which will bring more resources to their students and also provide bilingual education environment. Such a cooperation is shown to be mutually beneficial. For the third question, teachers' teaching skills are improved through online education platform, especially because more people get involved in learning. Teachers will get more feedback. Here is a picture photo in BOPTR University. The course is principle of communication. It's very important courses for EE students. More online resources, more way to interact with teachers and other students are always good for students, also for the teachers. The figure shows above is a real-time classroom example from the Open University of China. After watching this lecture video, students can leave comments in the online chatting room. Nowadays, the surging number of Chinese internet users lays a foundation for the faster development of offer courses in China. In the near future, the Chinese government will continue playing an important role in open courses project construction. National top college may form a close platform to develop systematic courses on the higher tech scientific majors. Okay, this is all for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. And we thank you for coming to share your approaches to open courses. And now I'd like to find out whether the remote presenter is available. If he is, we'll go to him. Otherwise, we'll continue with the panel. So is the remote presenter online? Okay. I think I'd like to bring some discussion into the meeting. So I'd like to first, of course, introduce you to the moderator, Wisdom Donko, who will then proceed with the affairs. So please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you are welcome to this section. We are basically going to the former chair of Afrinic. He's actually one of the founding fathers for Afrinic. And then he is also a contributing member to the Internet Governance and then Open Government Data Initiative globally. And then we have Indiana. Indiana is also an Internet governance advocate and then open data. She works with the Web Foundation, and then she works with the World Bank as well in relation to open government data. And then we have Valentina. Valentina more or less work with government, I believe, civil society. She works with civil society, and then in relation to internet governance, open data, and all that. Anything open, you find Valentina there. And then we have Sonijitu from Nigeria. He is also more or less an advocate of open data. And then we have our brother from Kenya, Boniface Witava. he is more into open education and all that. So, audience, these are your panel, and then Mr. Chair, your audience, and then your panel.
Thank you very much. There are a series of questions that have been raised. Is he online? Excuse me, is he online? Oh, okay. So then can we have Eric share with us his presentation? Eric, you have the floor, please.
Sorry, I'm confused with the headphones.
No problem. Okay, let me raise a few basic questions that the panelists may want to ponder. No, we are all hoping that open government data will help the public services, and in particular, I'm very interested in how evidence-based work can improve, let's say, planning and development, and there are questions of benefits in the transparency of general operations and how it can improve journalism, or for that matter, democracy and civic participation, as to name a few. So I'd like to invite the panelists to each make an initial 3-minute intervention, and then if we have time, they can make closing remarks. So I'd like to start from my right, so please, move on. You can start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Open Data Initiative has been taking root in Africa. For instance, the World Bank hails Kenya, South Africa, and Ghana as the pioneers of open data in Africa. So perhaps the question we should be asking is, why are governments in the rush to open up their data to the public? So is it a case of sharing data, statistics, or just dumb lies, as one would say? So in Kenya, the passing of the Freedom of Information Act acted as a catalyst to the government setting up the Open Data Initiative, whose aim was to create transparency, and the aspect of transparency, citizen participation, and accountability. So these three tenets have provided an avenue for checks and balances within government, within citizens themselves, and the private sector. So at least the government is able to be put on task to be accountable to its budgetary allocation and expenditure. But when you talk of Open Data Initiative, I don't think this initiative would be successful if it weren't for the partnership of open government partnership concept, because it's been essential in setting up government initiatives and steps and the new approaches with their partner countries. For instance, Kenya, as I had mentioned earlier, and South Africa, Morocco, Tanzania, and Liberia are at the forefront of opening up their data to the public for public scrutiny. So I think when you look from this perspective, I think it creates a more accountable government, which is accountable to its citizens, and the citizens are able to be able to know what the government is up to in terms of how it's spending its money, public expenditure from the public coffers. And then in the mining industry is also another area that perhaps the open data can be of great help, because we find that in some countries, there's come to be the richest countries in Africa because of their minerals, but in the long run, the country remains poorer. No one is accountable where did the minerals go to. So if you open up data and say ABCD company came into the country, and then they were able to open up, they were able to mine this number of grams of minerals, and then they were able to sell it at this number of this much of dollars. So I think it will be able to create a citizenry that's able to trust their government in terms of operations. Thank you.
Very much. I'd like to move right along and get Sonigitu Ekpe from Nigeria to make his initial intervention.
Thank you, Chairman. I think mine, it's a little challenge. I'm looking at privacy challenge when it comes to open data. Actually, open data and open government will really help us through sustainability. But the first is how to balance privacy with transparency and accountability in the context of public personal information. The second challenge flows from the disruption of traditional approaches to privacy based on a collapse of the distinction between public and private sector actors. The third challenge is that of the potential for open government data, even if anonymous, to contribute to the big data environment, in which citizens and their activities are increasingly monitored and profiled. Now, if we're talking about open data, open government, definitely the citizens have to give up everything. And then we can all be able to start looking at sustainable approaches to coordinate and collaborate for a better living. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Ms. Valentina Pavel to make a comment.
Thank you for the invitation and for the introduction. My name is Valentina Pavel. I work for a digital rights NGO in Bucharest, Romania. And I'm going to shortly explain how the open data initiatives work in Romania and a little bit of context in Europe. Romania has signed the Open Government Partnership in 2011, and since then the government has awarded more and more focus to open data. A data portal was created. However, in all these years, there are only 329 data sets. So when it comes to developing public services, definitely we need to ask for more data in order to find out exactly what the benefits for society are there. Also, maybe it's important to mention the fact that in 2013 the European Commission approves the Public Sector Information Directive, which amends the former directive on public sector information. So all the European countries had to implement this text. From my point of view, unfortunately, Romania just did an unfortunate copy-paste of the text, so it lost the opportunity to make a step further and to take more advantage of reuse of public sector information. And I also would like to mention the fact that more information on public sector reuse is available on the platform called apsiplatform.eu, where different national correspondents are putting information relevant from their countries related to open data policies and public sector use of information. And just a few hours earlier, there was a webinar on a standard developed by the World Web Consortium, which focused on explaining how different open data portals could be interoperable. So if anyone from the audience is interested in works with open data and is interested into integrating more open data platforms, I suggest you check the website and see the recording, which is going to be available. I will stop here, and if there are more questions about the Romanian situation or Europe, I will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valentina. I think it was a good introduction to bring Nina in, so please make your initial.
Good morning, everyone. I'm still wondering why I was invited to this panel, because I would have rather sat at my quiet corner. The first submission I'll have to make is that we have an open data barometer. The Web Foundation publishes an open data barometer, which is a study of over 86 countries in the impact and effective use and initiatives in open data. And China is not in the first 10. And I'm surprised that China is co-organizing this, and I want to say thank you for a beginning. I think we would expect more openness from the government of China in the way it does things, in the way it handles data, and especially in open data for participation, for citizen participation in policy. That is my first submission. Having said that, I got a background paper which says there is as yet no internationally accepted set of ethical standards for releasing and using open government data. That is not correct, because anyone here who is online can go to opendatacharter.net. Open Data Charter has been launched, and everyone can adopt internationally agreed standards of open data. I'll repeat the website again. It is opendatacharter.net. Everybody can go there and look at the internationally agreed open data standards. I will summarize them in a very quick way. Open by default. Public data should be open by default. In other words, information does not belong to the government, it belongs to the people. And if government needs to close it, then it will have to show a reason why it has to be closed. Timely and comprehensive. If you are giving me data of 2000 this year, then in most cases it has lost its relevance. Accessible and usable. When you put all of data in under copyright, it means that we cannot even use it. So I hope somebody like Florence is going to talk to us about open source and open data, openness in technology. So if a government says we're just releasing data and you type it in a book and you sell the book, you are, well, I know this is a UN conference, but that is total bullshit. Okay, so when we are talking about open data, we are talking about formats that can be used. We are talking about open licenses. We are talking about data that is comparable and interoperable, so that this year it can be used, next year it can be used, and when other formats are open, they also can be interoperable. Are we clear about that? We're talking about improved governance and citizen engagement. Putting out data in itself is not of any goal unless it improves governance, unless it allows citizens to participate, unless it allows for government accountability, unless it allows for transparency in what we do. So to come here and say, oh, we have one open data program XYZ, we don't care about that. What we care is that it is improving governance, it is improving transparency, it is improving democracy. It is for inclusive development and innovation. And let me close, Mr. Chair, on this session by saying that we are here for internet and sustainable development goals. Let's not forget about the sustainability that we are looking for in our development. On the 28th of September, we as Web Foundation with other partners launched the Global Partnership on Sustainable Development Data. Global Partnership on Sustainable Development Data. Because we know that on our own as countries, we may not be able to pull it up. So we need this space for sharing lessons. We need this space for global collaboratives. We need this space for us to do things together. When we talk about global goals, it does not just mean about poor and rich countries. It means the 7 billion of us. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. If I have offended anybody, I intentionally meant to do so.
Well, thank you very much. As you know my style, everyone is welcome, and anyone who comes is contributing simply by participating. So I'm just glad that China is participating. Having said that, I'd like to invite Madam Florence Toffa to make opening remarks.
Thank you very much. My name is Florence Toffa, and I head an organization called Mobile Web Ghana. We are currently running a project called Code for Ghana. The whole essence of this project is, we are all talking about open data initiative. The government should release data, which is a wonderful idea. This presents us with a new opportunity. After releasing the data, what next? we need to drive the demand side of data. How do we encourage citizens to go online and pick that data and make meaning out of it? So we have done a lot of open data hackathons in my organization. We have been able to train the youth to just take simple population data of Ghana, for instance. The last time we did it, they were able to visualize using the Ghana map how many places have places of convenience, how many accident data occur in the country. With people with no skills were able to do that within 2 days of the hackathon. So this is what we are advocating, that it's good for people to release data. It's good for us to get the data online. How do we drive the demand side of this data for it to benefit citizens directly? How would we represent the data for ordinary citizens to be able to understand? And one of the aspects of the project that we are also running is training newsroom journalists to be able to do data journalism, to be able to represent data in a way that citizens can connect with the data, because they are at the front line. They communicate directly. They are able to reach mass number of people to be able to read their news items. So what we've realized through the project is that traditional journalists, people who have been in the mainstream journalists for a long time, they are usually hesitant to undergo the training. Initially, they will start and then will not end. So the approach that we adopted is to go through the organizations that are training these journalists, like the new budding journalists in the country. So we were able to organize a training that had these new journalists that were in the first year. And we were surprised. The first day that we did, the room was very full. And they were very excited. And after that, we had about 50 of them signing up to do data journalism with us. So my focus and my interest and my passion is to be able to translate this open data that we are talking about. How does it benefit? How does it create a new set of ecosystem where we will have people talking about policies, we have people talking about data representation, people doing the hackathon, people also doing different aspects. So my whole passion is to be able to see a whole new ecosystem developing out of this open data initiative that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you've heard a wide variety of issues raised. You've also seen one application, and a lot of different issues have been raised. I like to engage the community immediately. So if anyone wants to make a comment or raise a question, please, the mics are open. And I like to encourage questions. Please, go ahead.
Hello. My name is Sita from Hivos. I work in Indonesia and the Philippines. I would like to share with you on the definition of open data. I would like to add another dimensions of what Nina was saying earlier about interoperability, about the format. In our case, in Indonesia and the Philippines, it's really difficult to have the directly good quality of open data. So the best main narratives that we have in Indonesia is Guard the Elections, or the Kawal Pemilu, which is a crowdsourced initiative from open data, but it's actually not open data. It's a PDF format. Yeah, the election commissions is opening our ballots counting in the PDF, and people are together crowdsource the data and make it into more better narratives on open data. So I need to challenge that open data charter as well. So I think we need to also opening a dimensions of because the capacity of the government itself in opening the data in Southeast Asia, in particular in the way the countries that I work, is very much not yet there. Yeah, we have a very big gaps on that capacity. So I think we need to not to be very restricted in giving meaning for open data, in specifically the open data format and interoperability. We need to be more into the transparency and accountability perspective. Thank you.
I'd like to take a few more questions, then I'll ask the panelists to respond. Yeah, yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the panelists for that insightful information. I just want to ask a quick question. I believe open data is in no doubt a force for good with regards to the numerous benefits that has been outlined by our distinguished panelists. However, I think it does not come, it comes with its own inherent risk. Data quality, some of the information, for instance, if you take crime data, it can be insightful, but it can also be misleading. Now, what measures are being put in place? I have not visited the website that Nina actually spoke about, but what measures are being put in place? What security controls are being put in place to ensure that all these risks are mitigated? The second question that I have has to do with meaningful data. This data that is being put there is data. I mean, it's in its raw form. And the citizenry have to make meaningful information out of the data. Now, it takes skills to actually take the data and transform it into meaningful information to be used. Now, if you go to the grassroots citizens who we say we are making this data available to them, what skill set do they have to actually take this data and transform it or convert it into meaningful information that can be actually being used, to be used? Actually, that is my question. What controls? How are we going to build capacity? How are we going to, build their knowledge base and their skills to actually take this data and convert it into meaningful decisions? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next one.
Well, I'm Anawak. I'm from the João Pessoa City Hall, from the Secretary of Transparency here. And, well, we deal with all these challenges, right? We are all working with free software and open standards formats to give people to get into the data and treat it. But what we really challenge, and this is my question, is how you deal and what do you do to make people engage over this data? Because we live in a city with 1 million people, and we have only at tops 120 people having access or getting access to this data. So we work to open it, we give it out, we put it under open formats. But in fact, people is not getting appropriating that data and using it in the way, and this seems to be now, well, maybe in Brazil, the biggest problem, and how effectively make people use it to transform society.
Last question, and then we'll round up.
It's actually a short comment, but my name is Raul Plummer, and I'm from the Electronic Frontier Finland, and I've worked for the Finnish Pirate Party for 7 years. Open government is one of the core agendas of the pirates, and we seem to be the only party in the world that specifically advocates open government. Unlike other parties, we want to change the current political system through open initiatives to change the laws and increasing the transparency of governments through publishing the information that is used for the decision-making by the political parties. This lowers the threshold that governments have for the citizens' participation by giving them a chance to challenge the information that the politicians have before the decisions are made. This decentralizes power, which, as far as I can see, is practically always a change for the better. The pirates want to encourage all the political parties of the world to publish the information they use or explain for each case why that cannot be done. Thanks for Nena for also highlighting this principle that should be advocated all over the world. Thank you.
Last one.
Okay. Hi, my name is Andrea. I'm from the Youth IGF program from CGI and ISOC, and from the Observatory of Latin America and Caribbean Youth. And my question is similar to his question, but from the perspective of the youth, I'd like to know this process of education capacities to understand and criticize and appropriate the data, the open data. How can we have this process to educate the youth so we can have this data, this open data that, okay, we don't have the open data, but when we have the open data, we can criticize the data and we can use the data to change the world effectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, you have a mic, so.
Thank you. Hello, thank you all for sharing your knowledge. My name is Caroline Burli. I work at CGIBR and W3C Brazil office, and I agree 100% with Nana. And just to share with you that I think capacitation is also a huge issue that we have to care about when we talk about open data. And not only for government, but also the question about how the citizens could use the data. So it's important to engage them, indeed. And to share with you just quick comment that we have capacitation online for free. If someone is interested, I can give you the link later. Just come and talk with me. It's on Open Data and Semantic Web and Linked Data. Okay, thank you.
Very much. Are there any remote questions? Are there any remote questions? Okay. This is our chance to conclude, so I'd like to invite each of the panelists, including Professor Tao, to make closing remarks. But please stay within a minute or two. I go this time from my left, so Madam Florence, so you start.
Okay, my closing remark is that obviously we cannot get every single citizen, we cannot build their capacity. But what we can do as organizations, as people of open data advocate, is that we can work, we can collaborate with organizations that have a wider reach to these citizens. We can work with media organizations, we can work with civil society organizations to build the capacity of these citizens and engage the citizens. So someone asked the question, how do we engage people over this data? How do we, so for instance, one of the media houses that we trained, they were able to visualize a data set of the district assembly elections. And they had never done that in the newspaper, but they were able to publish it. And they got good response from online and from the print media, for instance. So this is one way that we can engage people over how to use the data, how they can make meaning out of the data. So we can gather developers, we can work with hubs, like technology hubs, we can create one, we can gather them and then seek for support and be able to build their data. It is not, even when data is available on government websites, we can give simple training for people to be able to script that data and be able to visualize that data and be able to make meaning out of the data. If we are able to do that, if one single person, one single youth is able to analyze the data and put it on his or her Facebook profile, it reaches a whole number of people. So that is the individual capacity building that we are talking about. And as much as we want to engage people over the data set that we have, let's build small capacity one at a time. And if they're able to share this data set, these data visualizations via social media, it becomes a ripple effect, and it go and people would be able to engage the government on specific issues that they want to get results from.
Thank you, Professor Tao.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's no doubt to open government data to the public. This is very important and urgent, and this would be a benefit to individual companies and also governments themselves. As a scientist, when I want to make some analysis, big data analysis, the situation is I have low data, and sometimes you are a person with very strong big data analysis, but they has low data. Sometimes a company or government with data but maybe have low time to analysis. This is the situation. And here I also want to introduce a talk from our Prime Minister Li Keqiang in the third session of the 12th National People's Congress this year, March 6th. Prime Minister Li Keqiang said, the government data shall be open to the public as much as possible, except some confidential data. This data can be used by various cloud computing companies to improve social services and also useful for the government decision maker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I still honestly feel that we are afraid of jumping 2 feet into what open government data is. Mr. Man from Yaopisao, what open data are you really publishing? Because the open data barometer of 2014 shows that in the 84 countries that we have studied, only 13% of the countries are publishing their budgets. Only 8% are publishing government spending. Only 6% are publishing information on contracts. And only 3% are publishing information on ownership of companies. Maybe we will talk later, but I would like to know if the Paraiba as a state or Help Us Out as a city is publishing these. If you put this online, you can be sure you have 1,000 per day, because everybody wants to see that information. So the question is, what level of information are we publishing? And mind you, this is information that people should have. So if you go home from here, please look for the budget, the spending, the contracts, and ownership of companies. Make these open and then we'll check it out. But having said that, Mr. Chair, I think that back to the question, the internet and open government data, I think that 16 years ago when we were adopting the MDGs, we did not have enough bandwidth in the world. We did not have a lot of people connected to the internet. We did not have a lot of sharing capacities. We did not have a lot of computing capacities. But now we do. I agree that there is still data literacy, there is still data engagement on the parts of citizens. We need to build capacity, but let's use the capacity that we have. The internet has multiplicity inherent in it. So let's use the internet to share open government data. And this, let me tell you, if you share government data in Brazil, it helps people in Kenya. If you share government data in South Africa, it helps people in Nigeria. If you share government data in Ghana, it helps people in Bolivia. So the internet makes it possible for us to have a global data world. And that will be my last word today. Let us give all of the information that we can. Let us fight for everybody to have the internet, and let us use the internet as one single tool to help us push the development goals. Thank you for having me.
Valentina?
Well, after hearing Nena speak, I don't think no one can add anything else. To the best of my ability, I will just share a few examples of how civil society gather up to build some open data apps. And really, since 2012, 2013, there have been two one coalition on open data and another coalition on open educational resources. So different people from both civil society, government, and the private sector have gathered up to meet regularly and to find solutions to push this movement forward in Romania. And from my point of view, some of the best examples in Romania were a website with open budgets from absolutely every region in Romania, from every city, which was a huge effort done by one single NGO. And this connects to the question on how you engage citizens. So when there are social problems, when there are issues that affect a number of people, the citizens get the tendency to collide and to collaborate on building something which is useful for them. And it can happen in two ways. Thinking of from the experience from Romania, if you think of something funny, for example, we once looked at the public procurement data in Romania, and we found out that there were companies registered in Antarctica, which was of course absurd. And when there are tragedies, that's another way when people just come together. There was, maybe you've heard of, I'll just finish with this. There was a fire in a nightclub in Bucharest, killing lots of people. So just simple citizens gather up on Facebook to map all the clubs in Bucharest and to see whether they have safety measurements in place. So I think the human nature of all these aspects really brings us together to make the open data movement go further. Thank you.
Sonny, do a real quick one for me, 1 minute.
Thanks. Getting citizens engaged on using open data is basically being able to move towards a sectorial approach. That is the only way, because data is only useful when people have needs. Now, and the people also need to recognize that they need to also give up their privacy, because this is what is causing hoarding of data. And thank you.
On fast.
Okay, thank you. Today, the internet has fast transformed into an internet of things. So with over 25 billion devices connected to the internet, there's no reason at all why governments should not open up their data to the citizens. They need to use collaborative tools, innovative tools as well to engage people, because transparency plus collaboration and innovation and participation equals to openness. And thank you.
I'd like to thank all of you for your participation and your patience, even though we had technical difficulties. But I do like to make 1 or 2 points. I think open data is really just beginning. So let us not assume that it's done and people are late. We are just beginning, so anybody is welcome. I also tend to take the bias that if you go with the development agenda, you are likely to gain the transparency and all the other good things that you want. I suggest that next time this topic may just be too big, and try and make multiple workshops out of it so that you'll be able to dive in more. I just say thank you very much for your support. Yeah.